Without changing his medication or diet, he has had much better blood sugar levels.
Es gibt Altersdiabetesfälle.
There are cases of adult-onset diabetes where we're at the limit, but we can delay the initiation of a regular diabetic treatment. In case of polypathy, which we checked, the nerval passage in the peripheral organs has been improved.
Der nervale Durchgang in den peripheren Organen ist verbessert worden.
I have diabetes and I've done everything there is, syringes and the like, but I still felt weak and limp. Since I've used Bemer, I don't feel weak anymore. I have more energy and more power.
Dass die Anregung der Vasomotion und damit Verbesserung der Mikrozirkulation.
The stimulation of the vasomotion, thus improving the microcirculation, is not the only effect our signal has on the body, which is shown in other scientific studies. They also show to us that this signal, this impulse, does also affect protein synthesis, the immune system, the behavior of the white blood cells. In fact, we could ascertain an increased production of information proteins within the organism. Therefore, information can much better get to the different parts of the body. The body's regulatory processes are harmonized more easily, and therefore these processes are more efficient.
Last year, a new patient came to me who was suffering from AIDS and suffered a massive circulatory defect in her leg. To my surprise, after 4 weeks, she told me that the ulcer had decreased dramatically. The wound was healed up. It was still crusted, but closed, and it could now heal for good.
A patient was presented to me with a highly inflammatory lower leg, without sufficient blood supply and bulging edematous tissue. Basically, the leg was going to be amputated. The result after 4 days, from a completely necrotic wound, was that the blood suddenly started flowing again. First, the patient was shocked, but for me it was the breakthrough we needed to avoid an amputation.
Der Durchbruch, dass ich gesagt habe, das brauchen wir, eine Amputation zu verhindern.
We could reduce the blood pressure medications in a patient by 50%. Now the blood pressure using Bemer is better than it was before using 100% of medication. The doctor said her knee was so bad that they'd have to insert an endoprosthesis. She used the mat, and after 3 weeks she could walk back down the stairs and is now fully mobile again. After 5 weeks she had no more varicose veins and she can again wear shorts. 10 years ago my wife had a very serious vein disorder and had an operation date set in Mannheim. In the same week, her medical practitioner presented to her the Bemer 3000 device. They simply applied it against my will, and at first I was shocked. How could you, and what is that again? But after 6 weeks of Bemer therapy, she was able to cancel the vein surgery. The field of microcirculation comprises the metabolite exchange and the mechanisms of the body's defenses at the smallest blood vessels. Not only the behavior of the red blood cells, the plasma and the platelets, but also the behavior of the white blood cells. No regenerative process is possible without participation of the microcirculation, which emphasizes the significance of the microcirculation for preventive medicine.
A patient was treated for a giant cell arteritis from the angiologist with cortisone. The cortisone had to be stopped. The walking distance of the patient has increased from 50 meters to about 2 to 5 kilometers.
The patient came to us, to our practice. She's been in treatment with us for some time. She's had a tumor that was being treated by conventional medicine, and at the same time she had back pain and tinnitus. The problem, the patient could not tolerate many kinds of painkillers because of an allergic reaction, which made the treatment very difficult. After 12 weeks, both her back pain and the tinnitus decreased significantly, which eased her daily life enormously and made her quite happy.
Sehr große Glücksmomente mit sich gebracht hat.
They sometimes call back after a day or two to say, "Well, I didn't exactly understand what you did yesterday in therapeutics or treatments, but I haven't felt so fresh and lively for months." I do strength training, play table tennis, and I jog, but through my business I do travel often and can't work out. But when I start my training again, I don't get sore muscles.
Die Patientin hatte eine
The patient had migraine and an atopic eczema for 30 years. Using the Bemer therapy, the migraine reduced from once or twice a week to once a year, and the eczema is completely gone.
das endogene Ekzem ist ebenfalls komplett verschwunden.
Especially in the lumbar region and in the knee joint area, I've had very good experiences.
Bei Patientinnen, die Osteoporose hatten,
Patients who've had osteoporosis, painful osteoporosis, and were able to use the Bemer several times a day experienced relief very quickly.
befreit wurden.
I was 43 years old and I had serious problems. In the left hand, osteoarthritis, herniated disc in the lumbar spine, and carpal tunnel syndrome in my right arm. That was no fun back then. I could only stand up for up to a minute, and then I had to sit down due to pain. After about half a year of Bemer therapy, all was gone, without any pills or syringes.
My back problems improved, the tensions eased. I have no migraine anymore, and I don't have to lock myself in anymore to hide from Chinook-like weather. Also, my cough and my asthma has improved.
Das war der Fall eines Freundes.
It was the case of a friend who had heart surgery and his sternum did not close. He developed a so-called cartilaginous. For 1.5 years, this man has had pain you cannot imagine. He then used Bemer. After 4 weeks, we were able to stop using almost all the pain medication. After 8 weeks, he didn't need any more drugs, and after 12 weeks, a test revealed it was completely healed.
Ergeben, dass alles verheilt war.
I advise my medical colleagues to use the Bemer system broadly for complementary therapy to the benefits of their patients. Keep in mind the proven effects of the Bemer system on the endothelium-moderated regulation of the vessel tonus, on the excretory function of the kidney in the removal of uremic substances with regard to deficits, support of immune reactions, and much more. Don't hesitate to use the Bemer system, in addition to established therapies, for numerous chronic diseases, chronic pains, and others, especially if no causal therapy is known and only symptomatic treatment is available.
Ich möchte ein paar Sätze
I want to say a few words about my patient with multiple sclerosis.
sagen. Die Kraft, die Kräfte in den Beinen, in der
The strength in the legs, the muscles in the quadriceps femoris, it's increased, the strength, by 21% on both sides.
beide Seiten verbessert. Die Kraft.
We have a patient with multiple sclerosis. It's basically incurable, and his problem was that he had only one bowel movement per week. Since he's been using Bemer, he has a better bowel movement, which is of course an amazing improvement, and also has less voice dropouts.
After 2 to 3 months, I have noticed that it was much better. I have more stamina. I can walk longer distances. Astonishingly, after 1 year of treatment, I have to say, I'm feeling much better.
Mir geht's eindeutig besser. Die Bemer-Therapie.
I'm doing the Bemer therapy twice daily. It is not so like it is often said, having MS in stage 6, you only get to stage 7. You may also go back to stage 5.
Stadium 5 kommen.
Wir wissen heute, dass bei
We now know that for the regulatory processes in the pulsatile vessel wall motions, a whole chain of enzymes are involved, which lead to further lowering the activation energy down to a very small amount. And now it's also understandable why some electromagnetic signals do not work. For example, any square impulse or any triangular pulse or any trapezoidal pulse. Only a very specific timed signal sequence like the Bemer signal does work.
Bestimmte zeitliche Signalfolge, wie sie im Bemer-System Anwendung findet. Well, I would say the one thing that really impresses me is that it can help people with a lot of chronic ailments, but the one that really sticks in my mind is a little boy of 5 years old whose leg had to be amputated, and then after 7 minutes of Bemer treatment in a hospital under medical supervision, this little boy recovered 100%.
I was in the kitchen cooking. While I was pouring the rice, the kettle's handle slipped from my hand and all the boiling water ran over my hand. It hurt like hell, and it was gone. There were no blisters, it was not red, it was just gone. 4 years ago, I had a bone tumour. The doctors told me then that the healing time will amount to about 6 weeks before I can walk. I started using the Bemer 5 times a day. After 2 weeks, I could walk perfectly.
The swellings, which occurred normally after surgery and implantations, were very small, and the pain was much lower. She suffered from bone cancer. The patient was actually facing the situation that the leg was scheduled to be amputated. We decided, with the surgeon to give the Bemer therapy a try. With incredible results. After 3 months, 80% of the bone had healed and grown back together. This was confirmed by X-rays. He had a scaphoid fracture that he got while playing handball. This is a process that usually takes 12 weeks until the injury is completely healed. Within 3 weeks, it didn't show any abnormalities on X-ray. He couldn't move. I said I'll drop by. We spoke to the doctors and head physicians of the hospital, and finally they agreed and I could finally install the Bemer. Finally, he could do everything himself. He could go to the bathroom. He could do all the simple and ordinary things, and also the organ of speech had been improved. Today we understand him well. He can speak clearly. The improvement of organ blood flow as a result of stimulating the local regulation induces an increase in organ functions. In particular, stress-exposed persons, but especially for older people with impaired microcirculation. This means a higher quality of life and a reduction in susceptibility to infection. It is the most effective and best studied physical treatment that is currently available to us.